Coach Emily and Matt here to bring you Tackle Trading's halftime report for the first of the week. We're very excited to be with all of you guys here today. Coach Em, how are you doing today?
I am doing wonderful, Matt. How are you?
I'm doing better than your Redskins, but I do love it that you're supporting your team even though they lost to the abysmal Colts.
Oh man, don't even talk about that. Pass. Let's just get to the halftime report.
I don't want to pass on this because I picked Adrian Peterson up on the waiver wire. I was expecting big things from him yesterday.
Oh man,
nothing. You know, when your team, are they 0-2 now or 1-1 now?
They're 1-1.
They're 1-1 right now. Okay, so you're not out of it. You're not like the G-Man and Marquise's G-Man out there.
No,
right?
No, we're not. At least I can rub it on his face and say at least we're 1-1.
Yes. The Washington Redskins saying we're better than the Giants because you're 0-2 and we're 1-1. That's fascinating. And I got a big smile on my face because, Emily, I don't get a big smile on my face very often as a Miami Dolphin fan.
No.
And Miami Dolphins, I don't care who they played. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. They are 2-0 and they're going to the Super Bowl. And I am booking tickets right now. I'm so excited. You cannot get me off my high horse. They're going to beat the Raiders this week, start 3-0 with a showdown. Coach Keith over there. Keith King, good old Bostonian. Showdown with England with Miami in first place. I can't wait for week 4 of the NFL season. You know, Em, I love football, love everything about it. You obviously do too. But let's get into the halftime report here today. And you know, as we're starting the week here out, obviously we're having a little bit of a pullback in the market. Nothing really to be too concerned about. But you know, Em, I want to first start with a couple things. Number one, for those of you who don't know Coach Em, she's part of the Women in Trading series over there at Tackle Trading. Her and Rosemary and so many other people do a great job with the Women in Trading blog. Love that's one of my favorite reads every time you put out the Women in Trading series. Can you please talk just about what you're doing with Women in Trading and kind of give it a little bit of a pitch here?
A little bit of a shout out to Women in Trading, WIT. Well, I'm sure a lot of our halftime crew folks do catch all the blogs in over there in Tackle, and I hope that you guys are reading the Women in Trading blog. Even if you're not a woman, I hope you are giving us some support out there. But you know, it was something that Coach Tim challenged me to do. A couple. 3 years ago now, when I did my mentorship with him out there in Utah, where you guys are, to pay it forward, right? To give it back, because once we learn this, what are you going to do with your time? And for us, this was one way to educate the masses, but particularly women, because we need to be able to learn how to manage our finances, how to manage our money. We all know the stats out there that men will
we
die
before you.
Right.
That's what we do.
We need to be able.
There's a few reasons for that too, by the way.
Well, I've seen how you and Tim eat, so yeah, I can see that.
Thanks, Nat. I appreciate that. My wife. I hope my wife does not catch that here, because she's been on that. She's been on that train lately.
Edit that, Cody.
Yeah, I don't think we can edit a live halftime report there, but I'm sure my wife will appreciate the ammunition.
I won't only edit it; I will highlight it.
Yeah, but the reality is, the simple reality is, 98% of all women in America will control 100% of the finances at some point in their lives. And the sad statistics, and we all know those sad statistics, is number one, they are paid 78 cents on the dollar versus their male counterpart. That's number one. Number two, they're not promoted to the higher paying positions as often as their male counterpart. And that's a bigger issue. But the biggest issue is they are not prepared for retirement in any capacity. And a lot of them are with underproducing their male counterpart, living on average 10 years longer. 98% of them will control the finances at some point. And what you're doing with Women in Trading, targeting those women, speaking from that voice, I just absolutely love it. It's like it's like Jabon Wilson told me one time. Jabon.
Yeah.
He said, Matt, you don't look the part. Right. And I was like, what do you mean by that, Jabon? I don't look the part. He's like, there's a certain demographic you can't reach. And I'm like, what do you mean, Jabon? And I'm just trying to give it to Jabon. He says, Matt, you're white. You're white, Matt. And I said, wait a second, Jabon, really? you sure about that? And Javon's like, yes. And I'll say, and you said the same thing to me one time. I said, but I want to be in women in trading. And you said, Matt, you don't have the parts. You know, so I love what you guys are doing. You know, there's a certain voice and there's a certain demographic that will listen to certain voices. I get that. And what you and Rose and the other women at Women in Trading like Jess and whatnot, you guys are doing absolutely amazing. And Tackle Trading, Trading Justice, the Justice Brothers, we all support what you're doing. And we love you coming on to the halftime report to fill in for my lazy brother who is in Chicago right now, going to the Bears game. He thinks he can take a day off because it's his birthday, and I just don't get this. I'm very upset with him about this. But I kid. Big shout out to Tim, guys. Big shout out.
Happy birthday, Tim. We miss you, but I will represent Tim very well today. So hopefully I do well for
have
Coach
fun at
Tim.
the Bears game tonight there, T. Be safe on your flight.
Let's hope they win.
All right, so Em, I want to start here with the S&P 500 showing a little bit of weakness here. Does today's downward movement in price give you any concern in this hot bullish market?
No, not really. It's a slow week in the market. It's, you know, just one red candle out of, you know, of the first day of the week. It's not concerning to me. I'm still, you know, bullish in the market. It's just one of those days where you just kind of manage your trades and just kind of, you know, start preparing for what to put on this week if it does give us the leeway to do so.
You know, and I want to talk about this just a little bit because there's fear that drives markets down, right? Mm-hmm. This is not that. This is not that. And I want to bring this up because on Friday it was announced that President Trump was going to put tariffs on $200 billion in more Chinese goods coming back into the U.S. He basically left that at a 10% increase in tariffs with the ability to go up to 25% in tariffs. And this economic news coupled with China over the weekend saying that basically if you put these tariffs on us, we will retaliate against some of your products coming into China. And number two, we're going to stop talking to you, basically, is what the Chinese delegation said. Okay, we're going to pull our ball and we're going to run home with it, is basically what the Chinese said. Okay, on a day with that much economic news coming out of the weekend and the market literally down in the S&P down just 7 points today, that's not fear, right?
No,
that's not fear. I mean, with fear, you see big increases in price, not small increases in price. This to me says more about just the light economic news, no real earnings coming out this week. And the market is at resistance after a really good week last week in the market, up 1.2% last week in the market. We nailed this pullback coming off the 20-day moving average, and we see it over and over again. The market will show slight weakness at resistance, and that is what we're seeing here today. It doesn't mean it's not going to break out and run, and if it does break out and run, you're going to have a tremendous amount of opportunity out there and a lot of stocks that we'll talk about here in just 1 second. The next thing I want to get your take on here is YM, the Dow Jones Industrial Average here. And M, if you break down the sectors, I want to get your take here. Here at the halftime report and at Trading Justice, we've been not bearish in any capacity, but we have said that the YM contract, the Dow Jones Industrial, has been, lagging its counterparts, right? And especially in the NASDAQ as well as the S&P 500. But we noted that it had started recently in catching up to that. Looking at the industrial index here, Em, you're really only down 5 points on the day. You're dojing just the same way you did Friday. Are you getting to the point where you're like, hey, listen, we need it as traders here, right? As a halftime crew, right? And you're halftime crew too. Yeah. So as halftime crew, should we rotate into some industrial positions?
It looks like it's time to start looking for some stocks in the industrial sector to see what's starting to go bullish, because it's kind of like, it had that big green candle. What was that, 2 days ago? So that would have been Thursday. and it's just kind of like slowing down today, catching its breath, ready to just pop again. So I'm looking for a breakout, and then it's just going to rip because it has yet to go back to its all-time highs in February.
Mm-hmm.
So if it breaks above that, I think we're getting up to that 26,684 range.
Which that's kind of my take here as well, is that if you do break this 26,200 level, which is where we personally have identified this resistance channel at, you close above 26,200, I'm going to take that as extremely bullish coming into the industrial sector. And if you just strip out the YM, the Dow Jones Industrial, and you just look at industrial stocks in XLI here, you are seeing tremendous strength coming into industrial stocks. It's one of the best performing sectors over the last week and a half. Broke out of this 78 barrier, started running. It's trying to get back up into those all-time highs. So coupled, when you're looking at the XLI coupled with the strength it's showing in the YM contract, I think you got to bring up the industrials and say, hey, I
think YM might start making up, moving up in ranks, because I think we all kind of have it at the bottom of the list right now, but it might start, pushing up in front of the technology of NASDAQ and maybe even RTY, but we'll see.
Well, let's take a look at that RTY here, because I expressed concern last week on it that it wasn't behaving the way we thought it should coming off that bounce. And today, literally today, just barely, I pulled off my directional play on IWM at a loss. And, and this is how you got to understand how this works. I took that trade right here, literally about a week ago. It's currently at the exact same price that I got into the trade, but yet I took a loss on it because when I went directional, I bought call options and I lost time decay and volatility and, so on and so forth. But with the weakness today and the strength in YM today, I just felt like the Russell, I just don't trust this. It's still bullish. It's even, technically speaking, you can make an argument that it's still more bullish than the YM, given the fact that it's still above its support channel. But I just didn't love the price action I saw today. It has an increase in volume. I want to show you this. You have an increase in volume on the participation on that downward movement in price. And we're only halfway through that trading day so far. So for me, I did bring it down. So for me, the RTY is currently 4th in my rankings. I still have the NASDAQ, and I'm getting concerned about the NASDAQ here. And I want to speak to that. The concern I have, and I want to get your take on it, Em. The concern I have is great pivot, but you're now starting to see a pivot lower. Is that your read as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Tech was doing very well for quite some time. And, when we talk about sector rotations, this is probably one of those things where you see a lot of people going now into the industrials and getting out of tech. So you're going to see that correlation where you see people coming out of technology and going into those industrials. So something to definitely look out for.
And you're certainly seeing that today, given the downward movement in price we're seeing in technology, showing the relative strength in the Dow Jones today. So I just want everybody to kind of focus on that 7,500 level. It's currently at 7,514, 7,513. That 7,500 level to me is fairly important. I'm still bullish as long as it stays above the 50-day moving average, and that's right around 74.35. So I'm still bullish, but I am concerned with technology. And some of those trades like we had with CRM, Apple, and some of the other trades from the last couple of weeks, like for example, CRM, I'll just give you a quick little understanding of how I'm approaching this. I wasn't concerned about CRM on Friday in any capacity. I'm still not concerned about the stock, but I am concerned about the short-term movement in the stock. So I started scaling out of a trade that I took on right here. And as long as it stays above 155, I'm still bullish on it. But because of the overall relative weakness in the NASDAQ here today, it basically made me manage my trade a little bit more conservatively than otherwise, I would have if we would have had a strong day in the market here today. Speaking of Salesforce, Em, there was some news on Salesforce today. What happened?
Yeah. So Salesforce, CEO of the company, Mark Benioff, is going to be buying Time Warner News Media Company. So quite an interesting
I
move
wonder
there.
what the odds are that Benioff's going to be times man, man of the
Times man of the
person of the
year,
year, or
person of the
whatever
year,
it is.
whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. It's got to be at least 48%. I'm completely making that up. But it basically reminded me of, we were talking in our pre-production show here, and it basically reminded me of Jeff Bezos' purchasing of Amazon, not Amazon,
Washington Post.
Washington Post here just a few years ago. I just want to get your take on that. How do you feel about, these tech giants like Bezos and Benioff getting into the media empire, kind of like, Murdoch with Fox from 20 years ago?
Yeah, it kind of makes you want to scratch your head a little bit as to what their agenda is behind all of that, right? A tech company buying a media company. It's like, what are you guys up to back there, right? But
Control the message. You know what they're up to,
right? So it's one of those things. But we still do what we do. We don't trade based based on what happens in the news medias anyway. We don't watch those shows to get our posture on the markets. We look at charts and analyze and just trade and click buttons. So, go for it, Mark.
Now, in looking at it, the only thing I'm going to say to it about is this, because one thing that does drive me a little bit nuts is our news media is so political, partisan driven today. And, when a giant tech company like CRM, and it wasn't CRM, it was Benioff and he and his wife's name. CRM has nothing to do with it. But when you're basically controlling media, it does give a little bit of propaganda feel to it to a certain extent. You don't trust it as much. So I didn't like that from a pure economics, but I do like Mark Benioff quite a bit. I think he's one of the better CEOs out there in the world. And big ups, Mark Benioff, for purchasing time. Congrats to you and your wife, even though I don't love it. But here, looking at the sectors, before we get into sectors, let's talk about economics very quickly.
Whoa. Hold on a second, Matt.
Go ahead.
You cannot look at the VIX, okay? Tim is here. I'm representing Tim, and we need to look at the VIX. I demand.
Emily, the only thing I'm going to say to this is, you go, girl.
Well,
I do want to get your read on the VIX. Okay, I want you to spend a couple minutes just kind of explaining what the VIX is, why the VIX is important. Go ahead, Em.
First of all, Tim's gonna die because every time he brings it up, you just want to bypass it and act like it doesn't exist. But now you want me to analyze the VIX?
Well, it's a very important indicator for everybody's trading systems to apply here.
Oh my God. Okay, well, then here we go. Let's look at the VIX. So what is the VIX? VIX measures fear, right? So when the VIX is high, premiums are high, and the VIX is low, premiums are low. So we buy options when the VIX is low, and we sell options when the VIX is high. But that's all depending on the stocks and also their IV rank as well. But nothing to see here, Matt. I can't.
Wonderful analysis.
It's funny that you actually want me to go into this, but it's
wonderful analysis.
Wake me up when it's above 20. Other than that, I'm not concerned.
So, Emily, that was the best analysis on the VIX that I've heard in the last month and a half. I just want to give a shout out to your understanding of the VIX and all.
Love you, Tim.
It's a very, very important indicator for all of us to track on a daily basis. And as Coach M says, wake me up when it's above 20. Okay. and when it's above 20, wake me up when all the analysts say, hey, when the VIX is high, that's when option premiums are high, and you should sell option premiums instead of buy option premiums. And it's like, oh Lord, okay, whatever. Okay. Love the analysis on the VIX though. Love the analysis on the VIX. I do want to move into the sectors here this week. Guys, one of the things that is very important in prepping for your week, right? It is so important to prepare for your week of trading. Emily, I want you to kind of take a moment to kind of describe to people watching our show today and later on today, just kind of what you do in preparing for the week of the market for Coach Emily.
Well, typically Monday mornings, the beginning of the week. Well, I usually actually my week starts on Sunday night. I watch the scouting reports. I look at the options report, the stock reports, and prepare for what I'm going to get into that week. So shout out to all the coaches that put out those wonderful reports. You guys make my job a lot easier because I don't have to go out and analyze anything. It's already prepared for me. So for me,
do you like this? Look at that.
Shout out to you guys. You guys are awesome.
That's what we do on Fridays.
I am a busy mom of two. I have other things going on. If I don't have to go to FinViz and scan and look for stocks that are prepping for the week, I'm not going to. So thank you guys for those scouting reports. They really do condense the time for me, and it just makes it easy for me to just go in there and pick a couple of things and put them on. As a matter of fact, I put on Baba this morning. I was not on the halftime show on Friday, so I missed that show, but I did catch it on the options report. Thanks, Tyler Craig. And I put that on this morning, and I've got a little bit of a premium, and it's only been a couple hours into the market. So, it's all about, taking action, right? It's you watch these reports and you find a candidate and click the button and put the order on. I mean, it's that simple.
I love what you said earlier today. We were in the prep for the halftime report, and I was asking Emily, Coach Em, I was asking her about, kind of how she goes about preparing for the market, because I think this is an important discussion. She says, Matt, listen, I just click the damn button. That's what I do. I said, well, some people do have a fear of button clicking. And Coach's like, no, I made that trade on Friday. It's important to take action when it is setting up, right? And that's what those scouting reports are. They're not trades that are being put on Monday morning, right? They're a list of stocks that are setting up from a technical condition. And on Friday, we have that scouting report meeting on Friday after the bell every Friday, 4 Eastern, and it takes us about 2.5 hours. But even before that, I run scans for at least 2 hours just building the initial list. And then we go through hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of stocks, if not thousands of stocks, to find all of those scouting report picks, and then putting them together and releasing them on Saturday for the pro members over there at Tackle Trading. And I use them. Listen, I'm the head of Tackle, and I use them the exact same way. I create a list, and then I'm waiting for those to set up. So coming into the week, you look at your scouting reports. Number one, you read the market scoreboard. Kind of looking at that. But one of the most important things about it also is understanding sectors and what certain sectors are doing. And I just want to give you a quick example, and then I'm going to let you run with it, Em. Okay. I was looking at a trade today, right? I was looking at a trade today, and that trade today was on ConocoPhillips.
Okay.
And ConocoPhillips was, at the time, it was breaking out up here, right? So it wasn't just this kind of failed breakout right here. It was a legit breakout type candidate showing increasing momentum. And I was looking at it, okay, I'm bullish on ConocoPhillips, but I'm concerned about where Conoco lives. And Conoco is one of the top 10 stocks within the energy sector itself. ExxonMobil kind of leads the charge and some of those other stocks, but like Chevron, but Conoco, I think, is either the 5th or 6th stock as weighted by this index here, looking at the energy sector itself. And I'm bearish, not like bearish -2, but I am slightly bearish on energy this week, given the fact that we double bottomed, we're coming back into resistance. You have just an absolute nasty candle here. And so because I was a little concerned about energy, I didn't pull the trigger on ConocoPhillips, despite the fact at the time it was a really, really good breakout. Why is understanding sectors and looking at the sectors important for you on a weekly basis?
I got to tell you, this is one of the things when I came to understand this later on as a trader, this really, really helped me out, because I would look at stocks and analyze them and put on trades, not understanding what, where they live, right? Which sectors they live in. And when I came to understand that, it really, really helped me not always pull the trigger, because I'm trigger crazy. I'll pull a trigger on anything. So I'm one of those people who's very aggressive in my trades. So I just click buttons, right?
Literally, your first trade was an iron condor on Amazon. You didn't even know what you were doing. Like when you told me that, I was like, "What are you doing, Em?" Like, Matt, you said to click a button. I clicked a button.
I clicked it.
I'm like, okay, this is concerning. I'm gonna have to ring you in real quick. But no, you are an aggressive type trader, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
when you see the signal, you're ready to rock and roll. So what sectors, looking at it from this week specifically, what sectors do you kind of see as a potential bullish? And let's specifically talk bullish here. Which ones are you high on this week?
Well, we kind of alluded to it earlier, Matt. We talked about XLI. I'm looking at XLI and XLY. Those two, XLY's got a little bit of a pullback. I am a little bit concerned that it did go a little bit below that moving average, but it's kind of pulling itself back up on there. But I'm waiting for a trigger on the upside and kind of go there. But looking at that compared to XLI, I'm liking XLI a lot better.
Industrials are definitely showing strength, no doubt about that. You know, I want to look at two sectors here because I want to get your take on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have consumer discretionary here that was breaking out 3 days ago, last Thursday, right? And in the halftime report, we pointed out that we were a little concerned about it because even though it broke out, it showed weakness throughout the intraday, right? Yep. And then over the next 2 days, you're coming right back down into that 50-day moving average. That is what we call a fake out in the marketplace, right? When it goes up, fakes, comes back down, and there's certain key indicators that might lead to a potential fake out. Like if it's overextended going into the breakout, that's an indicator that it's going to be faked out, right? And we've talked about that on the halftime report. Another one is from an intraday perspective. If you show weakness intraday on that breakout, that is a key stay away. If it's not showing strength intraday on the breakout, that's not going to confirm. Looking at XLY, you know, it wasn't overextended going into the breakout, but it did show weakness intraday on that breakout, and that's why I was a little concerned about it. On the flip side here, on what kind of a breakout here, looking at healthcare, this is what you want to see on a breakout, right? Mm-hmm. And then this just retraces back down into the breakout channel, giving you a lot of confidence going into healthcare. And so I certainly see the opportunity in discretionaries setting on that 20-day moving average. And like I said in the pre-production, you give anything that's setting on the 20-day moving average, yeah, that's a buy signal in a hot market. But I'm a little concerned about it. I'm a little concerned because of that failed breakout. I'm looking at healthcare. Overall, I think, you know, from the sectors that we are looking at coming into the week, keep track of consumer discretionary, sitting at that 20-day moving average there, looking at healthcare staying above 93. I'm also looking at consumer staples here. This might be one of those rotation into defensive that we've seen a little bit, not XLU, but XLP. Looking at consumer staples here, showing relative strength on a day when the market is showing weakness, trying to get up above that 55. I'm looking at this level here on consumer staples as like a hawk above 55. Above 55, I would call that extremely bullish above 55. So I'm looking at that. We've already talked about industrials. Another one setting up this week that you might want to track, especially given that we have housing data coming out later this week, is look at this the real estate sector. A lot of real estate stocks, a lot of REITs in there, showing strength on a day, showing some weakness. Also look for a potential breakout of 34. Now, I am neutral on real estate right now, but if it breaks 34, that is a tradable signal. Or looked at healthcare. The two I'm kind of concerned about are technology and energy. We've already kind of looked at those, but let me just take a quick peek at energy. Obviously showing some weakness here. I'm looking for energy to pull back down. And then the one I want to keep a track on, everybody, is the financial sector itself. I'm expecting a little bit of movement here. A lot of those big banking stocks have been just absolutely butchered lately, like your TD Ameritrade, those types of big banking stocks, big banking brokers. Finance has been held up because of the strength in credit card companies and insurance companies so far. So I'm looking at this coming back down in line. You're seeing a symmetrical triangle form here. Expect some price movement one way or the other on the financial sector itself. You know, and looking at the market, as you're analyzing the market, as you're analyzing the sectors, what's that next step? Obviously, we want to look at some stocks, right?
Right. So you look at some stocks and then you pick your candidates, right? You pick something from the bullish list, something from the bearish list, something from the neutral list, and then you got to decide, how you're going to play it, right? Are you going to do a swing trade? Are you going to do a position trade? What are you going to do with it? You're going to do, buy calls or, bear call, whatever the, scenario is, you have to start analyzing that.
Let me give you a couple scenarios. Okay. And you tell me how you would approach approach it from when you would get in to what type of strategy you would apply. Okay. So let's go with Costco stock. I'm looking at very cleanly. I love this trend. I love the strength of the trend. It is pulling back. It has not stopped pulling back, but it is slowing down. How would you approach trading Costco?
Well, this would be a perfect setup for a swing trade. So probably, looking at the previous movements you had, 1, 2. Yeah, I would probably do a swing trade on this one and do the pay method and kind of figure out, my averages and have a target, a stop loss below, that candlestick for today, based on ATR. So this would definitely be a swing trade for me.
Yeah, and for me as well. And the reason this would be a swing trade for me is a couple key things. Number one is you have increasing trend momentum. That's number one. And what you see by increasing trend momentum is you have this price movement, then you have this price movement, then you have this price movement. And you see that big old box compared to these smaller big boxes, but they're definitely smaller. That's increasing trend momentum. So that's number one. Whenever I see a good bullish uptrend with a clear increasing momentum channel, that immediately says swing trade to me. Immediately says. Now, if I see a breakout off a consolidation pattern, that might lead me to be like, okay, this is more of a position trade. So it's really what I'm personally seeing in the trend. And that's kind of what I'm getting from you, is what you're personally seeing in the trend and the pattern kind of helps you understand which particular style of trade to make, correct?
Correct.
Okay, good. Now, the question for everybody here, okay, for everybody watching the halftime report is this: at what point are you going to pull that trigger? Okay, that's the question, because you don't pull the trigger when it's going down, right? And we've said this many, many times. You do never catch that proverbial knife, right? You let it hit the ground first. The ground is what we call support. And I've talked about this in recent editions of the halftime report, but you got like everything else, like Coach Em was talking about with, analyzing the scouting reports and the sectors and preparing for the week in the market. If you prepare for the week in the market, it's much easier to execute your plan, right? Well, that can, the exact same thing could be said when I'm looking at where this retracement could come down into. I have to be prepared because there's multiple levels of support. Okay. Now for the halftime crew, number one, shout out to the halftime crew, #halftime crew. If you're part of the crew, also give us a nice little shout out on YouTube. Give us a nice little thumbs up and a share. Love that. But you got to prepare here on Costco. Give me the number you're prepared for. Maria, close above 235. Like it. Give me the number you're prepared to trigger on Costco. What's up, Daniel? Good hammer candle, doji, etc. I agree with that, Jasmine. Okay, number one, you got to prepare for multiple levels, right? Because first and foremost, you don't know. That's number one. You don't know. You know it's forming a bullish retracement. That's what you know. So for my brother Tim, I'm going to draw him a nice little Fibonacci. I know he loves his Fibonacci's here.
Oh, so, he does.
So we've talked about this in the past, okay? We don't like too deep of retracements. We don't like too shallow of a retracement. And Tim nicknamed this the Goldilocks. The Goldilocks is when it comes into the zone, right? And that zone is between 38 and 61. That's kind of that zone you're looking at. So if I draw that kind of zone here, you're looking at that zone being anywhere in that range, okay? So number one, if we pivot above today, are you taking that as a trade, Em?
Yeah, I would measure, the ATR 10% above today's high, and I would call that. I would definitely would.
Okay, agreed. That most likely will happen tomorrow, right? Okay, if it pivots today, that's a trade tomorrow. Now, if it doesn't pivot, I'm not worried about that. okay? Because I'm not pulling the trade yet. So if it comes down to 230, slows down at 230 and pivots, I'm ready to go at that point. If it comes down to all the way down here to 225, where that 50-day moving average is and at the bottom end of our Fibonacci, I'm not worried about that. If it comes all the way down here to 75, at that point, I'm worried about it because it's at that point too deep of a retracement. But that's where this trade on Costco, which I feel is setting up to be a really, really, really good trade here. It just might take a day or two or three to finally find its support zone because the knife is still falling down. Let it hit that ground anywhere into that range. Doji, I love what Jasmine said. Doji on a doji with an upward movement in price, Jasmine, that'd be a great trigger on that. I love that. But I'm prepared to take that trade tomorrow, the next day, or the next day, because you just don't know when it's going to set up. And that's an example of Costco being on one of the scouting reports. And some people are like, well, it's not triggering today. It's not triggering today. Well, no, it's not. That's not what the scouting report is. It's a list of stocks that we're looking at making trades on that week. If they set up and trigger, great. If they don't, they don't. So Costco's one of those examples. Now, Costco, high dollar stock, good swing trade stock here, setting up perfectly. Once you've decided you want to take a trade on something such as Costco, how do you go about selecting your strategy? Are you going to buy stock, call options? Are you going to do a bull put spread? Are you credit, debit? How do you go about your strategy selection?
Well, first things first, you have to understand which account you're trading in, number one, right? I always play options. I don't buy the stock. If I don't intend on owning the stock, therefore I don't want to play the shares. I'll just trade the options. So then I'll go on my trade tab and look at the options chain and figure out my rules, right? So whenever we're buying options, we want to buy more time. So I know already I'm going to do, 2 months plus whatever I expect to be on the trade, right? So we always have to follow the rules. So by that definition, I already bypass everything else. And I know I'm either doing the January now. A little caveat note, if you close that chain, I learned this from Tyler the other day. September has 4 days to expiration. So we don't have November or December on the options chain there, Matt. So November should pop in by when September expires, but we could already be in the trade. So it's going to be one of those things you have to look at and see before you actually enter the trade and see if.
Well, and those options won't be liquid upon the listing, either.
Right.
So it's a new listing.
That's right. So we'll look at January. And then I'm probably going to do a bull call. Because of the price of the stock, I don't necessarily just want to buy a straight up call. So I'll probably look at the bull call.
Which would mean you're buying the 230, selling the 250.
That's right.
Right, is kind of that thing. So basically, guys, as you're watching this, Coach M knows exactly how she's going to approach the market. Number one, it's a swing trade. You and I are both going to do options. I guarantee that. I'd never buy stock. I never short stock unless it's for a long-term type investment, covered calls, TAC 25, IRAs, solo 401, those types of accounts, right? But in any type of swing trade, we're looking at directionally trading options. Whether we do, the credit trade or the debit trade depends on, the momentum of the trend and so on and so forth. But with something that is increasing its momentum like Costco, something that is setting up like a good swing trade, I think it's one of those times you take that opportunity to go directional and hit that proverbial home run that you can do in the options market. I've really been loving this technique lately. Going directional with an at the money call option, on the trigger. So when that triggers tomorrow or the next day, I don't know, but when it does trigger with confirmation, I like buying a call option at the money, And then as it gets into that first level of resistance, i.e. this one would be 245, at that point you sell a deep out of the money option. So that's one technique you can go. Another technique you can do to be a little cheaper here, and this is something I've been employing lately as well, is with the anticipation of the market moving back up, you can even go out there and say, let me go buy a different delta out of the money, a 28 to a 48 delta, lower your cost, and then as the market approaches that first resistance level, all of a sudden now that delta is now at 50 instead of at 28, right?
Absolutely.
So as that delta increases, okay, at that point, now you sell that next deep out of money call option. So basically what you're doing here is you're buying a out of the money call option with the delta right around 0.30, okay? And then as the market appreciates back up into this resistance at 245, that delta is no longer 30, that delta is now 50, right? Because that's about a 17, 18 point movement. The gamma on it is 1, which means you're going to tick 1 delta per movement up. You're going to get into the 45 to 50 delta at that point. And then at this point here, you roll that into that bull call spread at that point. And I love the maximizing of the gamma on that one as well.
It's a great strategy. In fact, I think in one of the Mind of a Trader shows, and I think it was maybe a couple of months back, Coach Noah talked about this. Legging into a bull call. So it's these shows that these coaches put on, guys. They are really, really helpful. So if you're not watching Mind of a Trader on the Cash Flow Club, you need to be on there.
Well, and that was the when Noah was doing it, he was talking about you buy the 0.50 and then sell the 0.25 as it gets up. But and that's good too, but you're going to pay a little bit more of a cost there because you're buying a 0.50 delta instead of a 0.30 delta.
Right.
And you're basically getting the same gamma on it, right?
Yeah.
So you're basically getting the exact same gamma on it, but at a cheaper price. I like the velocity with delta and gamma on that 0.30, then sell it when it gets to 0.50. Either way you go about it, though, the whole point of this conversation is basically this. It's about preparation, right? Everything we do in the market is about preparing for the market that day. You have a plan on Costco. I have a plan on Costco. We're going to execute our plans independently, right? But at the same time, we're prepared for that. We know the strategy, we know the technique, we know the entry, we know where we're putting stop losses. All we need is for it to trigger. And that's what we're waiting for. So Costco, you better trigger in the next few days. Or
it better. I need to click buttons and I need to click it on Costco. So it needs to hurry up.
I know you're going to click. You might have already clicked it. You're right. Oh, the hell with you, man. I'm going to catch that. Hold my beer. This is a hold my beer.
Yeah, hold my beer and watch, right?
That's usually when you take a loss. Okay, so that's kind of my look. I want to ask. Let's go. We got a few minutes here left. Em, give me one stock you're looking at this week that will trigger this week that you're getting excited about.
I'm getting excited about Wayfair. My house is just we're just a bunch of women who just love to shop, and this is one of the places that we like to go.
So you're responsible for Wayfair, right?
Throw our money at. So we trade it first, and then we go buy stuff at Wayfair. So I'm looking for this to settle down, find a support level, and then trade it on the upside again.
Love it. Let me say one thing very quickly. This is something that I've done in the past with consumers, okay, who want to go buy something they don't need, right? and usually consumers, when they want to buy something they don't need, they usually use debt or money or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
Okay, you got to earn that, right? You got to earn that. So ladies and gentlemen, if you want to buy anything at Wayfair, you have to make money on Wayfair. Use the money on Wayfair to buy the stuff on Wayfair. Love the tip there. Love the pro tip there, Em. If you want to go buy that stupid new iPhone that is no different than the old iPhone for $1,100, you better go learn how to trade Apple really quickly. And it's a little concerning because it's showing a little bit of a So
quick story though.
Yeah,
quick story on my kids. Obviously my daughter brought this up and I said, hey, so this is what we're going to do. I'm going to open up an account for you guys, both of them, and we're going to start trading some Forex now. Because, I think for some reason, my kids are just crazy about currencies. I don't know why, but we're going to start trading some Forex. And I told them I'm going to fund their account with $1,000 each. And it will, whatever profits they make, I'll always keep the $1,000, but anything over $1,000 is for them to go spend. So that really got them intrigued, and they're off school on Wednesday. So we're going to start working on that stuff and just kind of start teaching them the basics about Forex and just, those go to bed trades, put a trade on before they go to bed, wake up in the morning and while they're getting dressed for school, see if they made money or not. And then they're gone.
I just one slight improvement on that. Okay.
Yeah.
The first trade they make money on, you take half the profit. that teaches them seed capital.
Oh
okay?
no, they're gonna pay for their cell phone bill. It's coming. They can spend
like
it, but they're getting a bill. They're getting a cell phone bill.
I like it. I did that with my son one time. He made like $200 trading. It was one stock and it was Bitcoin back in the day. And he's like, Dad, I made $60 off 200. I'm like, yeah. He's like, can I have the money? And I gave him the $60. So, I gave him the $60 and he went and bought a game with it. He played it for like 2 weeks, came back. He's like, hey, Dad, can we do some more trading? I'm like, yeah, where's your money? And he's like, I'm like, no, Dan, that's not how life works. You got to teach your kids these creative ways.
Yeah. They're going to make $100 and I'm going to give them a cell phone bill that says, hey, your cell phone bill is $30 a month. Bill.
Yeah, mind you, her kids are like 4 years old, guys. So I mean, she starts them when they're young. No, I love this stock on Wayfair. This stock has just been blowing up year to date. I mean, crazy. Just absolutely great things here. If you're looking for a potential trigger, and obviously you're not looking to trigger it up here, Em.
No.
Look at that 140 mark here. Okay, that's kind of where I'm looking at it. You got an old little high base type situation here on the breakout. If it comes down to 140, watch that 20-day moving average slowly catch up to that. That's a trigger. I like Wayfair here. Next, Cody, what stock do you got here?
Oh, I got to go with Home Depot. It has so many reasons to love right now. It came back. It touched that high from back in January. Perfect little pullback. We got a smaller candle already. Trigger above 210. I am in this faster than I can't even click the button fast enough. We get a trigger above 210. Yeah, look at that. Look at the pullback.
Goldilocks. This is a Goldilocks. Love it.
IV is low, so you get some cheap calls on that. Oh my God, everything's just so perfect with the stock. In our prep, I was like, I call it dibs. It's mine.
He did say dibs on it faster than I could. Cody got it. He was quicker. I'm looking at a few here. Just we already looked at Costco. Capital One Financial I'm looking at as well. I'd love the Costco and the Home Depot, the Wayfair examples. Looking at a couple bear picks here. I love a short on Halliburton here. Number one, there's very few times in my life that I feel better than when I short Goldman Sachs or Halliburton. That's number one. It just makes me feel like I'm doing my best as an American consumer. That makes me feel like a patriot. So I feel like a patriot by shorting this company. Big bearish downtrend, momentum to the downside, breakdown out of a inverted cup and handle, retracement back up to that exact same channel. Yep. Love that retracement. It has not triggered. Triggered has to be underneath the low, but I'm looking at Halliburton this week. That's got a hair trigger on it. Next, I'm looking at Weight Watchers here. Just a couple picks here. Weight Watchers, you don't see it, but the 200-day moving average is right here, triggered to the downside on Weight Watchers as well. Weight Watchers has confirmation today. Skyworks SWKS is another one I am looking at as a potential retracement trigger back down to the downside. But the one I'm kind of loving the most here, and I got about 18 on my list, is MGM. Wynn, Las Vegas Sands, MGM, all been doing very, very, very badly lately. But this one here,
talk about a kiss of death, right?
Oh, it is. It is a perfect type of setup right there. And what I love about this is that it's an easy stop loss above 28, right? Short underneath with confirmation down, stop loss above 28, like that one. Wynn's another good example of that as well. But the last one I want to mention is Facebook. Okay. Now, this is not triggering today, but I do believe a close under 160 is significant. Okay. Significant to the point where it would fly to 150, and a close underneath 150, you really have no man's land underneath that level. Keep an eye on Facebook at 160. Twitter's down, Snap's down, Facebook's down, Google's down. All these companies that were supposed to be on the hill or were on the hill, they are getting absolutely slaughtered. And ladies and gentlemen, this doesn't change overnight. When you have political eyes on you, and there's going to be congressional hearings on this, This isn't going away. I've said it for a while now. Facebook is hated by everybody, but it is still utilized by its consumers. That is a problem for Facebook in the short term, in the intermediate, and in the long term. So watch that at 160 and then ultimately over there at 150 as well. And then just want to take a peek here. We had a big argument. The biggest argument we've ever had in the scouting report, okay, meeting on Friday. Is Google bullish or bearish? Okay, I want to get everybody's take on it. Is Google bullish or bearish based on the trend? Remove the symbol, okay? Remove the symbol. Focus on trend and pattern. I want to throw it out to everybody. Is Google bullish or bearish? We had a big disagreement on it in the scouting report. I just want to give a nice little poll out there. We'll also put the poll on Twitter as well. Maria, that's cheating. That's cheating, Marie. Oh, that's so cheating. It's probably accurate. I just want to get everybody's take on that. And I'll put that poll on Twitter as well. Now I'll just be honest, Em. Okay. I was bearish. Okay. I made a big argument about putting Google on the bearish list. Mm-hmm. All right. I'll give you one guess who was bullish.
Tim.
It was Tim.
Oh, because he had a trade on it.
So it was Tim and Tyler against me and Mark, and everybody else was chiming in. It was an epic battle of just, analyzing Google. It was so fun. It was so fun. I'm winning today because it's down, but it is forming a low base. So I do have Google forming a low base situation. Keep a track on Google. With the weakness that you're seeing in Netflix, Google, Facebook, Apple today, it's given me concern about the overall marketplace. This has been a top-heavy, top-driven marketplace. It's still bullish. It's a stock pickers market, and there's a great bullish picks out there this week, and there's great bearish picks out there this week as well. Coach M, you got any final thoughts here?
No, guys, I hope those people that are out in North Carolina are doing, South Carolina, North Carolina, all you guys that were out in that hurricane zone are doing fine and are well and safe. It's a slow day economically and the markets are really nothing much to see. I think we'll just prepare and see what comes out. But thank you for having me on. You guys are awesome. I love the halftime crew. So it's good to be on the other side this week. So shout out to all the halftime crew folks. Thank you for having me on. I really loved and enjoyed the show.
We enjoyed you on here as well. As we leave the day for the halftime crew here, guys, market is showing weakness intraday. We're starting to see it sell off a little bit in all major markets. Okay, keep an eye on 2,900 in the S&P 500 on that intraday. Anything underneath 2,900, really look for those bearish positions to trigger in today. I'm not looking to trigger into any more bullish positions until we get some upward movements in price. But anything under 2,900, look for some of those bearish positions like Halliburton, Facebook, Skyworks, MGM, CVX, and so on and so forth. Emily, great job by you today. Halftime crew, great job by you as well. Hashtag halftime crew. I'm going to put a couple Twitter polls out there today on the Tackle Train Twitter with is Google, are you a buyer or a seller on Google? That will be one out there. Guys, thanks to everybody. Thanks, Cody. Thanks, Sam. We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye, guys.